What up, everybody? It's iPadBeatmaking.com, and you should learn music theory, they say. But you say, no, no, no. And thanks to some incredible tools we have available today on iOS, you don't necessarily have to. Now, in this video series, we're going to highlight some apps and hacks that'll help you get inspired in the creative zone, and most importantly, require little to no prior music theory knowledge. Welcome to the Music Theory App Hacks video series. Now, before we start with this episode, it helps to have a map to know where you're going. How are you feeling? What songs are you inspired by? To get a similar feel or starting place, I recommend using an app like DJ Pro or Chord AI, which can analyze the song of your choice. In the case of DJ Pro, it'll tell you what the key and tempo of the song is, and Chord AI will tell you what chord is being played in real time while you play the song back. These are great tools to get you started, and also some chord charts that you can find online that tell you what chords represent what moods, etc. can help get you in the ballpark of where you want to go. But with all that out the way, let's get started with today's app. Today we're going to check out Tonality. This app has got to represent one of the best values on iOS. The dev is always updating the app and adding more and more features. Now, when you open the app, you'll be presented with a list of chords, C through B, major, minor, augmented, diminished, and suspended. You'll also see triads, 6th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th. You can even tap on one of the chords to get them to play. Now, this app could have stopped here like most apps like this do, but it didn't. The dev calls this app a passion project, and in my opinion, I think it looks to educate as much as it looks to make music creation easier. Now, moving on to the next tab, we've got scales, which you can select, search for, and if you tap on the scale, it'll play each note within the scale. On the next tab, we've got the circle of fifths, where you can see the major keys on the big wheel and the minor keys on the smaller wheel. The relative minor and majors are the keys that are touching, so in this case, C major and A minor are relative scales. Now, obviously for this series, our objective is not to learn music theory, but again, this app makes you at least get tempted by the idea. Next, you've got pads, which we'll get to in a moment, but after pads, you've got ear training, a music term dictionary, a chord identifier, and more. If you want one app that can really do it all, this is it. Now let's get back to the pad mode. You're greeted with a ton of buttons on the surface, but that's just the beginning. I'm going to try to move really quickly through this so it won't be a full in-depth walkthrough, but I will try to cover most of the important things to get started. If you tap the button on the top left, you'll get a preset menu with scale chords, scale notes, chord progression inspiration, and a built-in patch storage database that features the chords and keys of popular songs and other users' workflow layouts. So the preset we're going to start with is scale chords, and we can choose triads, 7ths, or 9ths along with the major, minor, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, and Locrian or Locrian, or however you pronounce it. Below that, we've got the option to include secondary dominants, and then below that, we've got a wheel we can select a note from. And in the center of this wheel, you can alternate between the notes being flat or sharp. Okay, now that we've got that brief overview out of the way, we're going to select triads, major, and pick a key. Now we have our playable pads. On the bottom left, we've got a velocity slider that will lower the velocity if we move it to the left and increase it if we move it to the right. The 3 vertical dots to the right of that give you more velocity and CC options, including an XY pad where you can custom assign the CCs that the XY pad will trigger. And to the right of the 3 vertical dots, you've got a sustain button that will globally sustain each pad, which you can engage by sliding it to the right. And to the right of that, you'll see a multi-purpose square button called the tool pad that could have a myriad of different symbols, but in my case, it's currently set to clear. If we double tap it, we get a lengthy list of options we can apply to our pads individually by first selecting and holding the tool pad, in this case assign an octave down, and while holding it, hitting the pad that we wish to apply it to. Now moving to the top left, we've got a plus sign to say if your pad layout is a preset, and under that you'll see our selected song key, which we can press in order to have it change the key of all of our pads. And this is great if you have created the perfect pad layout and simply want to change the key you want to perform in. Now going toward the top right, we've got a 3-button slider that toggles the pad modes between play, edit, and rearranging them. And to the right of that, we've got a settings button which offers a ton of options for the pads. I tend to like to randomize the velocity and the intensity so that I get a more human feeling chord sound when hitting the pad. I also like having auto detect chords enabled for reasons I'll go over later. Now jumping back to the pads page on the second to top row on the right, we have a button for our MIDI mappings, a button that displays a piano that'll highlight the applicable notes of a pad that we press, and the next button is this incredible strum feature that you can use in one of two ways. The first way is quickly tapping it to enter a mode that will only play a chord pad's single notes by holding a pad and then hitting a pad of one of its notes to the right. And the other option is to hold the strum button until the pads wiggle, kind of like iOS apps do when you're going to delete them or move them, while simultaneously selecting a chord pad to break the chord pad down into its individual notes. And if you want to convert it back into a chord pad again, simply repeat the process again and it'll convert it back into a chord pad. All of these options result in an incredibly powerful palette of tools that you can make as simple or as complex as you'd like. This is one app that you'll literally never outgrow, and we aren't even done yet. So as if everything I've already showed you wasn't enough for a single app, it's also got multiple AEV3 MIDI apps built right in for your DAW. And while I'm all about AEV3, for this app in particular, I actually prefer using it in slide-over mode. And here's why. First of all, one of my favorite music apps, Nano Studio 2, doesn't record AU MIDI without a workaround, so that makes it painful enough to use as an AU MIDI. But in DAWs in general, AU MIDIs tend to apply to a specific track unless you manually route the MIDI each time. With slide-over mode, it automatically plays the selected track in most DAWs and easily slides out of the way when you don't need it. Overall, I just find it a better experience, but as with all things Tonality, you have options, so whichever works best for you, go for it. And finally, it can do what I like to call note vacuuming. I first saw this in this video here, so be sure to check out this channel for more information on this workflow. But following this example, you can take an app like Sound Prism, which features incredible chords, and when Tonality is in slide-over mode, you can hold an empty pad, play a chord in Sound Prism, and bam! Tonality vacuums it up and allows you to use it for whatever you'd like, however you'd like. And part of what makes this possible is that option I told you we'd go over later, which is having the auto detect chords enabled. So definitely have that enabled if this is something that you want to do. So all in all, this app represents the ultimate music theory hack while also giving you some music theory facts. You can really see the love the developer put into this, and you can tell he's really invested in creating the ultimate tool for music composition. And while we've got lots of hacks planned for this series, we really wanted to showcase Tonality to kick it off, because maybe, just maybe, it gives you a gateway to better understanding music theory if you're not as familiar with it as you'd like to be. And for you pros, Tonality has no problem keeping up with whatever your workflow is. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit the like button. And if you aren't currently subscribed, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on the latest news, tips, tricks, sales, beats, reviews, updates, and more. And be sure to join us on social media at iPad Beatmaking, and be sure to join our community over on our Discord server, the link of which you can find in the description. And as always, be sure to check out some of the best kits available for iOS at iPadBeatmaking.com. It's iPadBeatmaking.com. Peace.